chapter 14. It's good to see y'all. I'm going to be really honest with you. It's going to feel like deja vu from last week because this sermon it's a repeat. So much so, in fact, when I was in the text, I almost called Rod and Billy to say, hey, I may need to skip this passage because it is so identical to what we've just talked about. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, no. Okay, so there's another lesson. You think about all these things you want to know in Jesus' ministry that you don't, and then you get into the text and you feel like some of this is repeated. I'm like, well, here's a lesson. What does that tell you? Whenever Jesus went into Galilee, he had this issue. Then we've been studying when he was in Judea, he was having these issues. He goes into Perea, he's having these issues. So it tells Sean, like, sounds like a lot of people had these issues. Maybe I need to pay attention. And then God, it's not just that they had them, it's like, but you could have just repeated it once, and I get the gist of it, but he continues to repeat this. Out of all these things I want to know, and I get a lot of repeats, which tells me that God is also saying, not only does everyone struggle with this, but you need to what? Apparently you need to hear it. So there was a man I used to know, he was Al Payne. Al has passed. But I remember one time Al said, Sean, do you know the 4 S's of preaching? I said, no. He said, stand up, speak up, shut up, and sit down. And so Al may be proud of me this morning because it's going to be brief, but I hope it's to the point. And I just want to bring out a few more observations that we've made. Is that fair enough? So here we are. We're in Luke chapter 14. And I mean, well, here we go. One Sabbath, and you're already going, oh, okay. I think I know what's about to occur. One Sabbath, when he went to dine at the house of a ruler of the Pharisees, Luke is going to record 3 times he dines with the Pharisees. This will be the last time. Every single time, it ends in an argument. And as we see the last time, because some of these feasts were kind of semi-public, so they were aware of them, and some kind of an open door policy. And they're going to see Jesus go head to head, and it would bring crowds in. Because you can imagine they're going, he's going at it again with the leaders. Okay, here we go. Dine at the house of ruler of the Pharisees. They were watching him carefully. And behold, there was a man before him who had dropsy. And so this is like a buildup of fluid, typically around the abdomen, but it could be kidney, heart issues. Okay. Jesus responded to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? I mean, doesn't that seem rhetorical? Interesting, but they remained silent. Then he took him and healed him and sent him away. You know, one of the greatest blessings, to me, I see 2 blessings. Number 1, that he healed the man. And number 2, that he sent him away so he didn't have to hear the shenanigans after this. Because leave it to the Pharisees to just totally ruin the power and the joy of the man that has just been healed. And he said to them, which of you having a son or an ox that has fallen into a well on a Sabbath day will not immediately pull him out? And they could not reply to these things. So you've heard me talk about this multiple times. I'm not going to rehash everything that I've said. But I'll tell you what Sean Briggs did this week. I was reminded. Are there things, discussions you've had that have been so obvious, but you don't want to answer because it didn't fit with your personal beliefs? But you know that's so obvious. Why am I fighting against it? Now, brethren, I understand just because something is good, seems to be good, doesn't make it right all the time. But I got to tell you, there are things that have been so right and so good, but my teaching has gone against the obvious. Can I gently say this? If you have never seen hypocrisy in yourself, if you've never had a teaching you needed to change, that should have been obvious, and you can't think of one instance, humbly I suggest this, I'm a little concerned for you. Please don't tell me it's just me. Okay, I'm going to move on. Now so I've titled this one Dining with Jesus. Most all of this is taking place at the table. Now he told a parable to those who were invited when he noticed how they chose the places of honor. Literally, you know, their table's a few inches off the ground. We've talked about this, and they would kind of lay down, and the most honored guest was right behind you, so you'd be back to back with them. And then they actually had a pecking order, and it would alternate, boom, 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 boom. So there were actually places that you could sit. Of course, some people don't even have a place to sit. You're the outsider kind of looking in, trying to hear what's going on. Jesus says, talk about leave it to Jesus to make the dinner awkward. When you're invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not sit down in a place of honor, lest someone more distinguished than you be invited by him. And he who invited you both will come and say to you, give your place to this person. And then you will begin with shame to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up to the higher. Then you'll be honored in the presence of all who sit at table with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Now that's the point. Jesus wasn't trying to give tips on how to get the best seat. Here's what you do. Just go and just act humble. You'll get it. Just do that. No, he's saying, stop. You know, it's funny because we just had a little camp for the kiddos, and we do something where we eat. We tell the boys, ladies go first. And they're all so thrilled. They don't like it. And then as you would expect, some of the kiddos are more eager to get in front of even the boys. Mine was one of them, okay? And so you got to tell them, like, listen. This is character building. But you expect that with kiddos, yeah? You expect that with kiddos. I want to be careful about something. One moment does not define a person. Would you agree with that? Can we stop doing that? Well, I remember when this guy did this guy said this to me. Okay, they had a bad moment. Stop letting those moments define a person. But what Jesus is dealing with is a cultural practice that is wrong fundamentally. It's teaching a wrong concept, places of honor. And also he had a lot of data, and can we just say this? He could read hearts. So I want to be careful about what I'm talking about. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Yet, sometimes we say this is just a little thing. It was just a dinner suggestion. Yeah, but you always got to be the one to make that suggestion, don't you? Well, it's just some advice. I know, and you feel like you're always the person to give that piece of advice, right? Because you know. Well, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. That little thing can illustrate something humongous. Jesus says, if I can't trust you in a little, how am I going to trust you in a lot? So, and by the way, a shout out to your parents. I'm going to support you when the kiddos go, you sound inconsistent in your teaching. No, there's a context sometimes to what I'm saying. So sometimes Jesus says it's a little thing, don't make it big. Sometimes Jesus says that's not a little thing, pay attention. Before you approach someone with a concern, make sure that you're confident about this pattern. But I need to look at myself. So then this thing happens, and then he notices something else. He said to the man who had invited him, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Now, I got to wonder, were there some of those folk kind of on the outside, and did they hear it? And were they going, oh, yes, yes. And it's like, Jesus, what are you doing? This man invited you. Of course, I got to ask, like, what were your motives of inviting Jesus? Were they pure? Or were you going to be maybe the Pharisee that could get Jesus caught up among the others? But what I do know is that he's clearly inviting the people that would invite him. He's inviting the people that continue to validate his position among the society. Do you see what I'm saying? He was a ruler of the Pharisees, possibly among the Sanhedrin. He's somebody inviting the somebodies. And Jesus just awkwardly calls it out. Do I need to make application of that? Can I keep going? But here's the deal. So here's the guy, and you know the guy, and you've probably been the guy. I mean, Jesus is making it awkward, and he's clearly talking about all of them. And then he talks about everyone coming in and the resurrection of the just, and the guy that thinks he gets it but is probably the most clueless out of all of them. When he heard these things, he said, "Blessed is everyone who will eat in the bread in the kingdom of God." Yeah. And Jesus says, he addresses this to him. And it's kind of funny. He just goes into a parable. Matter of fact, the guy that I told you that said, "Speak up, shut up, sit down," he did a lot of work in Africa, and every now and then he would go, "I knew a man in Zimbabwe." And I go, here he goes. "A man once gave a great banquet and invited many. And at the time of the banquet, he sent a servant to say to those who had been invited, 'Come, for everything is now ready.' But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said to him, 'I bought a field and I must go out and see it. Please have me excused.' Another said, I bought 5 yoke of oxen and I go to examine them. Please have me excused." Another said, "I've married a wife and therefore I cannot come." So the servant came, reported these things to his master. Then the master of the house became angry. He said to his servant, "Go out quickly to the streets and lanes of the city, bring in the poor and the crippled and blind and lame." I'm thinking about Jesus. Here's the cream of the crop among you Jews. And outside you got other Jews outside the door and all these crippled and lame. I guarantee they'd love to come in. And the servant said, "Sir, what you commanded has been done, and there still is room." Isn't that sad? Because see, he prepared for so many, yet those reject it. And he calls those others that are rejected by their own people, but there's still just so much room. So the call goes out, Gentiles. And the master said to the servant, "Go out to the highways and hedges and compel people to come in, that my house may be filled. For I tell you, none of those men who were invited shall taste my banquet." Brethren, I talk about intellectual Christianity all the time. You're probably tired of hearing it, but I need to hear it for myself. So sorry, you're going to hear it. I told you why I focus on the things that I preach on. I am ready and willing to preach on everything, and we will. But there are things I'm going to focus in on more than others. And I'm going to pay attention to what Jesus was focusing in on. And Jesus says, the biggest problem that I have is your humility, your pride, your self-centeredness, your holiness. That's the thing that I need to get through. If I can get that, then everything else will have a ripple effect. We have people that are so smart. And they're the ones that say something first. They're the last people that need to be talking. They need to be quiet. They don't know what they're talking about. Sean hasn't known what he's talking about, what he talks about. Intellectual discussions around the dinner table. Whenever I won't do. And let me tell you, people that are seeking, they sniff it out and they sift it. They sift it. And they'll go to people who they perceive are trying to change. Yeah? So I think what happens here is he's leaving now, but the crowd has grown, and Jesus still isn't done. Great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and his wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to encounter another king in war, will not sit down first, deliberate whether he's able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has, he cannot be my disciple. Salt is good, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no use, either for the soil or for the new manure pile. It is thrown away. And here's the deal, he who has ears, let him hear." And then some of us are spectators. No, we're not challenging Jesus. We get so excited. He's like, but will you really follow me? Will you put me first? Will you do what it takes? If you won't, and if you won't pick up your cross, you cannot be my disciple. You got to be better than these Pharisees who do what they want, when they want, based on their own rules and traditions. You've got to do better than that. And you got to sacrifice. Listen, I'm in the stage of parenting, so I'm sorry. You got to hear this. But can I speak to us parent just to remind, because I'm speaking to myself, but I'm speaking to you also. Your kids, before they really dine with Jesus, they dine with you. And they are going to copy more than likely, brethren, they're going to copy what you do, not what you say. If we want them to be humble, we've got to be humble. You know, I'm joking about the kids getting in line, but it is a character issue, yeah? And so can I say something? We got this thing that's going to happen with our kiddos. I want to be super clear about this because I feel it. You know, with our kiddos, trying to teach them, no, you get to the back of the line. You get one request. I embarrass my kids sometimes. All the kids are bringing in song requests. We're going to sing together. You get one request. Come on. Well, there's other people. Because we're trying to show them that life is not all about you. You get what you want, when you want it. And what that means is that sometimes my kids are going to be overlooked. And sometimes kids are going to walk over them. And they're not going to be acknowledged. And that hurts mom and dad. Doesn't that hurt? I mean, be real with me for a moment. Doesn't that hurt? And I'm not saying that there's never a time to go, hey, now there's humility and then there's a doormat. And guys, please, can we be reasonable? We're talking about this in a reasonable way. But what I'm saying is this, you got to figure out what you want for your kid. And if it's more important for them to be at the top, then keep feeding them everything they want. And keep putting them as the most important. Keep doting on them on everything they do, and they never do. I mean, you keep doing that, and I'll go and tell you where this is going to lead. They are going to wow the world. They're going to be the CEO. They're going to be among that church because they were the loudest. They were put in a leadership. I don't know why we do this in churches, but we do it. I was talking to someone at a church. It doesn't matter who it is, but it's happened before. It just seems like we just put in the loudest guy. We do. I'm saying collectively, we have done that many times. I don't know why we do it, but we know better, but we do it. But listen, they're gonna get the promotion. They're gonna be liked. They're gonna be in. They're gonna be the CEO. But know this: they will be at the end of the line in the kingdom. But that hurts, I know. But your kid, but they're going to be looked over. Yes, they will be looked over. And they're going to be put in the back of the bus, if you will. And maybe in this lifetime, never find them their spot in front. And what Jesus is saying is that if that's too much for you, that's okay. But you cannot be my disciple. I mean, there it is. Amen? And we're trying to figure a way to harmonize how to have both. I don't think we can do it. Now, that's the hard part. If you were asking me, Sean, you've been doing a lot of, because like not only am I doing a series through this right now, I've got studies with you, and coincidentally just studying Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I got to tell you right now, Jesus is so beautiful to me because we are so messed up. It's just one negative thing after negative thing after negative thing after negative thing in the Gospels. It's actually kind of depressing, to be honest with you. I mean, you can see what you want to see in it, but what's so beautiful is that the funny thing that I do is I'll start working on something, and then instead of going, thank you, God, for humbling, then I'll take that thing and become prideful because I figured it out. And then I look at everyone else, I'm like, why haven't you figured this out? And God's like, I thought I was teaching you. Jesus was actually nailing it and always perfectly rebuked and challenged and led his people along. I want to say thank you for being people who love Jesus, who care first and foremost about him, who accept hard sayings and challenges and even rebukes, who put other people before yourself. You are a beautiful people to dine with, and you will dine with Jesus. Now, see, you're already really dining with him now in a real way, but you will dine with him forevermore. You are the light of Christ in this world now. And even recently, even in our small little world, here we are at our little camp for the kiddos, and let me tell you, Jordan was praising you on the way home. I just appreciate the women and the guys, everyone just taking turns and pitching in and helping. But you know, that's you. Now, I've said that, and we're going to... No. We balance this out. Can I tell you too, my heart is hurting? Because one of the brightest lights that I've seen, Miss Crystal, and I just want to bring this up because we don't have a lot of time with her left. Matter of fact, I think she's gone. She had to leave. She left already, didn't she? You know what she did? She's gone to go visit a sister in prison, I think this afternoon. So, very fitting. God bless you as you continue to serve him. Let's stand and sing praises to our God.